Glad you joined me here for the thread. I've, I've reiterated over and over what the thread is about. So we're just going to skip right on to the lesson tonight. It's relatively short. Um, Been really busy with Good Friday service and working with Easter Sunday and making sure it goes off without a hitch. So this lesson is going to be a little bit shorter tonight, but it's going to be all right. We're going to talk about an encounter where Jesus healed two blind men after they followed him crying out for his mercy. And they addressed the Son of David. They addressed him as the Son of David. It means that they acknowledged his messianic title and expressed faith in his ability to heal. Which is really kind of cool if you think about it. Because his title, Son of David, was not just a recognition of Jesus' heritage. It was a profound declaration. A profound declaration of their belief in Jesus' divine mission. And these two blind men, they followed after Jesus. They were very persistent. They didn't just ask once and expect things to go and just go away. They were persistent. Much like the woman that decided to touch the hem of the garment. They were very, very persistent. Which is remarkable considering their circumstances. Because if you think about it, blindness in ancient times often meant a life of being marginalized, a life of being dependent on others, a life that was much decided for them as much as they decided for themselves. But these men, they did not let their condition deter them. They saw the opportunity for transformation, and they went after it and seized it with everything they had. And this illustrates their deep faith and their hope for change in their lives. Their cries in this story is Jesus, have mercy on us. These reveal an understanding of their need for Jesus. They needed his compassion first, which he often provided, and he needed his healing power. They didn't demand or expect healing as a right, but they appealed to Jesus' mercy. This humility is such a crucial aspect of their faith, if you really think about it. Because they acknowledged that they were helpless. And they acknowledged that they were absolutely dependent on the grace of Jesus. Their plea is a model, if you think about it, of how we should approach God. We should approach him with humility. And we should recognize our need for his mercy. In this Easter season, we need to approach Jesus with humility, understanding the sacrifice that he made for us. The sacrifice that he made for people that would come after him. A sacrifice that we might even not even make for those we love. And the recognition that without his mercy, we're lost. As I said in a sermon a few weeks ago, I need his grace all the time. I need his grace just to go to Walmart. So I need it in my everyday walk. So let's talk about the significance of their faith. See, faith is the central theme in the narrative here. The blind men had persistent cries, and they used that title again, Son of David. They showed their belief that Jesus was in fact the promised Messiah. This faith is just not intellectual. It's a deep trust in Jesus and Jesus' power, his willingness to heal. Their faith drove their actions. Their faith fueled their determination that they had to get to Jesus. Just like we talked about last week, decide that no matter what, I got to get to Jesus. No matter what the physical limitations might be, they decided they had to get to Jesus. In the context of this gospel, which is Matthew, faith is typically the highlight, or it's highlighted as crucial for the receiving of miracles from Jesus. When he talked to the woman who had hemorrhaged for 12 years, he says, your faith has made you well. When the man came and he wouldn't let him come to his house and said, Lord, just say the word and your son will be healed. He said, never even in my disciples have I seen such faith. Faith was a big deal in the book of Matthew. He commanded he actually commended individuals for faith. And he linked their belief, their faith, to the miraculous outcomes that they would experience. And in this case, the two blind men, and their faith is evident. It's not just in their words. It's in that relentless pursuit of Jesus. What would happen in our life if our pursuit of Jesus was just absolutely relentless? What miracles might occur in our own lives if we said nothing is stopping me from Jesus at this moment? That's a really good question, isn't it? See, their story here encourages us to consider how faith can drive us to actively seek God's intervention in our own lives. For many of us, this faith sometimes seems passive. We kind of pretend like we know that he does this stuff, but not for me. We see this faith as, well, I believe he can do it, but these guys didn't have a but. They said, we believe you can do this. And we believe you will do this. I hope we learned something from that right there. Just think about that. The perception. Look at last week's lesson and this week's lesson. The persistence, the desire that I'm going to get to Jesus and he's going to fill my needs no matter what stands in my way. How would our faith life be different if we had that attitude towards our Jesus? Because sometimes our faith seems passive. But in this account, that notion is challenged because it showed that pure faith is active, pure faith is persevering, and pure faith is relentless. The blind man's actions here demonstrate that faith involves a pursuit. It involves a continual reaching out to Jesus. Even when the circumstances seem impossible to overcome, we're called to continually reach out to Jesus. My friends, this is the kind of faith that opens doors. This is the one that opens doors to divine intervention. This is the kind of faith that gets into that transformation. See, but you got to understand that this is possible in our own lives. It was truth in their lives, but it's so positive in our lives. I really wish some of y'all have been to some of the services I went to, where I saw seemingly insurmountable challenges in people and watched them overcome them in a moment because they had a true encounter with Jesus. It is so cool to watch. When you watch a man who cannot see, regain his sight right in front of you, what do you do with that if you don't believe in divine intervention? You don't believe in transformation. But let's look at this a little closer. Look at the role of persistence. The most vital element of this story, in my view, is the perseverance of these men. They had obstacles. They were blind. They had obstacles. They were more basically ostracized. They didn't care. They did not give up. Their pursuit was unwavering. With this deep hope and belief in his power to change their lives. This persistence is a testament of their faith. And it should serve as an inspiration for us to persist in prayer, to persist in seeking God, even when the answers don't come right away, even when the miracle doesn't happen right away, even when the provision doesn't come right away, to keep seeking, to keep pressing. In our spiritual journey, my friends, persistence can be found in the form of faith in action. I get it. It's easy to become discouraged when the challenges come. I get it. I've been there. I've done that. It's easy to get discouraged. It's easy to wallow in your own self-pity too. But the blind men's example here shows that persistence is the key to experiencing God's work in our lives. Their story echoes, my friends, the biblical principle that those who seek will find. And that those who knock will have doors open to them. These guys' persistence is a reminder that in the Christian walk, persistence is essential. The persistent prayer, seeking that we often experience God's presence and intervention. If you spend time with God, and you spend time in prayer, and you spend time seeking God, you will feel the presence. And in many times he will intervene in your circumstances in ways that you don't even realize to make things work out for his good and your good. These men, their stories encourage us not to be disheartened by delays, not to be disheartened by difficulties, but to keep pressing on, to trust in God's timing, to trust in God's faithfulness. The story of the two blind men offers a timeless lesson here. It reminds us of the power of Jesus, of approaching Jesus with power, with humility and faith. Let me read that again. It reminds us of the power of approaching Jesus with humility and faith. Their acknowledgement that Jesus as the Son of David is the call to recognize his lordship and to turn to him when we have needs. And trust that his mercy, and trust in his mercy and his power to transform our situation. In our world today, we face challenges, my friends, and they look almost insurmountable. Persistence of the blind man inspires us to keep seeking Jesus, no matter what obstacles get in the way. Their faith and determination serve as a powerful example that hope and change are possible through Christ. Ultimately, this passage encourages us to live out our faith boldly and intentionally. By following the blind man's example, by being persistent, by being bold, by having a plan, by just nothing's getting in my way, we can deepen our relationship with Jesus. We can experience His mercy. We can experience His transforming power in our lives. I hope this encourages someone. You guys, you have a blessed evening. I love you all. Take care.